In today's video, I'm going to be talking about Furina, the Hydra Archon who is going to be released on Wednesday, and why I think she's a really solid unit to pick up in my opinion. Before I start today's video, I still haven't gotten Furina on my account yet, so heads up, all the things that I'll say in today's video are going to be based on information released by Horoverse themselves and other sources. I've watched a lot of videos on YouTube before recording this video, and even though at the very beginning I found her kit super confusing, now I think I understand most aspects about her kit, which is why I've decided to make today's video. Without further ado, let's get straight into it. So first of all, let me summarize her kit as quickly as possible, as I think the description for a kit can be a little bit overwhelming when reading it, as there's just a bit too many words in my opinion. Furina is a Hydra character who can be both Numa aligned or Uziah aligned, which you can switch between the two alignments when performing a charged attack. I hope you guys are still following, but moving on, let's talk about her elemental skill. The interesting thing about her skill is that its effect depends on whether she's Numa or Uziah aligned. When she is Numa aligned, she basically summons a cute mini Oceanid, which heals and applies Hydro, sort of similar to Kokomi's skill. When she's Uziah aligned, she summons these three cute marine animals called the guests of the Salon Solitaire, and each of them will deal Hydro damage at intervals and apply Hydro as well. The three guests of the Salon Solitaire will consume HP of characters with 50% or above HP, and use it to increase their own damage. This increase of damage depends on how many characters are there with 50% or above HP on the team. One thing to keep in mind is that both Furina's Numa aligned healing Oceanid and her Uziah aligned cute marine animals that attack, they all have their healing or damage respectively scaled off of Furina's max HP. And finally, Furina's burst has this really cute animation, and it causes all characters to enter the universal revelry state. When characters' HP increase or decrease in this state, Furina will receive fanfare points depending on the percentage of how much their max HP has changed. I'll put the equation that I wrote down after reading Furina's burst description on the screen, as I probably didn't describe it perfectly, and I'm sure that you guys were probably a little bit confused by what I said as well. Let's say a character which has 10k max HP loses 100 HP after Furina uses her burst. Furina will gain 1 fanfare point as the character lost 1% of their max HP, and that for every 1% of max HP lost or gained, it would give Furina 1 fanfare point. I hope that you guys understand what I'm trying to say, and what her fanfare points do is that they increase the amount of healing or the amount of damage that her skill does, depending on her alignment. Okay, that still took longer to fully explain than what I anticipated, and so for her passive talents, I'm just going to put them on the screen so that I can catch a breath. Feel free to pause the video if you want to just have a read and have a look. And now that we've got her kit explained, I can finally move on to the next section of today's video, in which I'm going to be talking about how valuable she is as a character, as you would be considering this when deciding whether you're going to pull for her or not. Her skill has different abilities depending on her alignment, and so that means that she can be played as a healer or as a support DPS. Now, I need to remind you guys that I don't know the exact scaling of her kit as of recording. The things that you have been seeing on the screen are clips that I'll record once she comes out, but back to the point that I was making. What I'm trying to say is that she's a really versatile character that can be fitted in most teams that require or would like a Hydra character. For example, in a Super Bloom team with Nilou and other characters like Nahida, Furina can basically play the role of a healer and also provide Hydra application, besides Nilou's own ring that appears after her skill is pressed 3 times. Of course, in a team like this, you would also want to have another Hydra character just in case of the Hydra application that Furina provides turns out to be not that great. You can also use Furina instead of Xingqiu in a Hu Tao team if you would want to use them in another team. Furina can summon her 3 little animals to apply Hydro, and when Hu Tao's health is a little bit too low for your comfort, you can also use Furina's skill to heal her a bit when she's Numa aligned. Some of the other teams that I've thought of that Furina can be put in include an Ayake team, Hyperbloom team, any Vaporized teams with a power DPS, and I think that's all the possible team comps that I can name off of the top of my head as of right now. The thing is, there are probably going to be videos out there that will talk about Furina's team comp a lot more better, but I still want to share my own take on this topic, as I still want to let you guys know what possible teams am I going to be playing Furina in. Because of how her kit is one of the most well-rounded kits that excel in both the offensive and the supportive field, I really do believe that she's going to be a very strong character that most people will want to pick up. Hydro as of right now is still one of the strongest elements in the game since 1.0, and I don't think Horoverse will make the Hydro Archon worse than existing Hydro characters. I know that I'm telling you this without having tried her out yet, but when I stream on Saturday, I'll do comparisons between Furina, Yelan, Xingqiu, and also other Hydro characters in different situations, so make sure you've turned on the bell for the stream. I'm going to do the Archon quest first, and that's enough self-promoting. Let's move on to the next section of today's video. Now that we've talked about Furina's team comps, let's talk about things that are more about Furina herself, and I'll start with her weapon options, as Furina is a character who would want to have as much HP as possible. 4-star options like the Document's Assistant or your typical Favonius sword are going to be probably the best general weapon for her. The Document's Assistant gives Furina 40 EM every single time she's healed or other characters are healed, up to a maximum of 3 stacks. We all know why Favonius sword is good. It gives energy when you crit, so I won't explain it too deeply. Alternatively, Sapwood Blade and Cyphos Moonlight are also good options if you're going to be playing Furina in a Dendro reaction team, and I'll put the descriptions on the screen. For a more offensive build, the new Battle Pass sword Wolf Fang works, and that's all the 4-star options that I can really think of that that will work well on Furina as of right now. Oh, but one weapon that I have missed out is Festering Desire, as it's probably going to be her best sub-DPS weapon as it simply increases her skill's damage. Some of you guys are probably wondering why I'm not talking about the Sacrificial Sword, and that's because I'm not sure whether you can have both the Numa and Uzia aligned summons on the field at the same time. If you can, then the Sacrificial Sword will also be a decent option, but if you can't, then it just won't work smoothly on Furina. As for the 5-star options, it's no surprise that her signature weapon, Splendor of Tranquil Waters, is going to be her best in slot. It increases the elemental damage that Furina deals whenever her HP changes, and this can stack up to 3 times. On top of that, whenever other characters' HP changes, Furina's max HP will increase up to 2 stacks. And of course, everything that I just said can be triggered when she is off field. If you still don't see it, it basically gives all the wanted stat buffs to Furina. Personally, I am going to be pulling for her weapon as well, but in my opinion, Nilou's signature weapon, if you have got that, it seems like it's going to be the second best option for Furina. First of all, it just flat increases your HP by 20%, and then EM is increased for every single time her skill hits an enemy, up to 3 stacks, and when 3 stacks are obtained, Elemental Mastery will be increased by 0.2% of Furina's max HP for all characters on the team. In both weapons cases, Furina's damage increases, and in Nilou's signature weapons case, other characters' reactions are also going to have a greater effect. The other 5-star options that are more DPS orientated can also work if you're thinking of building a DPS Furina, and because of how not every one of them benefit Furina fully, as she gets her damage mainly from her Uzia aligned skill, I wouldn't recommend those options as much as the first 2 5-star options, but by all means use them if you've already got them. As for her artifact set, I think we can all agree that the 4-piece Golden Troop is going to be her best in slot artifact set, as she has very good sub-DPS capabilities. The Golden Troop set gives her Uzia aligned skill a 50% damage increase when she's not on the field, as you can see on the screen. At the same time, I understand that not everyone would like to farm an artifact set that isn't in the strongbox yet, and so the Ocean Hued Clam set can also work if you want to max out her healing capability and also benefit from it by dealing some damage. Alternatively, you can also run Tenacity on Furina to give your team a 20% attack boost, and I assume that most of you guys will have more good Tenacity pieces than Golden Troop pieces, as it has been out in the game for a longer period of time. As for the main stats, you would want to have HP percent on the Sands, but if you don't have enough energy recharge from your substats, then you would want to go for energy recharge as the main stat for the Sands. For the Goblet, I think it is sort of similar to Nilou's situation, in which Hydro damage bonus and HP percent can both work, and I don't think the difference is going to be noticeable. However, if you're planning on building Furina as more of a healer support, then you would have more of a reason to look for HP percent. Finally, for the Circlet, go for either crit rate or crit damage for any builds other than a healer build, in which you would want to have HP percent instead. The substats that you would want to look for are crit rate and crit damage, of course, a bit of energy recharge to make sure that you can use her burst on cooldown. EM is also nice, and of course you would want to have HP percent. Moving on to the well section of today's video, I'll be talking about Furina's constellations. All the constellation descriptions should be on the screen, and I'll say that C1 is already good enough if you're only looking to well a tiny bit. It gives Furina 150 fanfare points right away, and it also increases the fanfare point limit by 100. However, if you're really looking to go big and well a considerable amount, then go for C2. It makes your fanfare point system even stronger and borderline broken in my opinion, by giving Furina a small amount of HP for every single fanfare point above the limit, with the maximum HP that she can have from this at 140% of her original max HP. Furina's fanfare points gain will also be increased by 250%, meaning that using the example that I used earlier, instead of gaining 1 fanfare point for every 1% max HP change, she'll now get 25 fanfare points instead. This is so strong, as this is exponential growth that we're talking about here, and the damage or healing that you're going to see from Furina after using her burst is going to be absolutely insane. C6 in summary just turns her into a broken DPS and a broken healer, and so there's not much to say about it, and realistically only a handful of people will probably go for her C6, so I'll just leave the description on the screen so that you guys can have a read about it. I have to really say that I am super tempted to roll for C2, as it just seems so strong. You'll find out in my wishing video what constellation my Furina will have, so fingers crossed my luck in Honkai Star Rail can be transferred over to Genshin, but to be honest, Furina's kit without any constellations already makes her a very strong unit, which is why I would definitely recommend you guys to pull for her. She's a sub-DPS healer and a support at the same time, her personality is really good, her backstory is also super interesting, and I just can't wait to do the Archon quest and find out more about Furina. And while I was gathering information to make today's video, I really can't think of one really strong and valid reason why you would want to skip her, unless you are looking at leaks and that you know things that you shouldn't, but if that's not the case, then there's a very strong reason why you should pull for her. Maybe if we pull for her, she won't be executed in the upcoming Archon quest, but who knows. Either way, this is going to be it for today's video. Hopefully you guys understand most of the things that I said when I talked about her kit, and I wish all of you guys good luck with your Furina pulls. I seriously can't believe that I'll once again have such a big welling session in Genshin after pulling for Nilou last year, and I seriously can't wait any longer for Wednesday to come. This video will be out before the polling video, as I'm just too busy this week with school stuff, but since I'm practically all done with my university application side of things, hopefully this will change next week. Okay, I've dragged this outro out a bit too long now, so like and subscribe and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye!